in good health, all in your diversity, in your safe locations. We are happy to come to you and have this engagement. First is to thank the leadership of Narc Kenya, the Secretary General, Mr. Orwa, the ED Tabu, and the party chair, Honorable Mother Karua, that will be joining shortly. As you will appreciate, each one of us is trying to readjust to basically adapt to the new way of doing things. But our key point is to underscore that democracy and governance work that political parties and an organization like CMD engages on is too critical and an essential service to be suspended because of the ongoing pandemic crisis. And that is why we have swiftly moved with the guidance of the membership and the leadership of CMD to see how we continue with our program work. And I want to really extend our gratitude to the leadership of Narc Kenya and the membership for availing yourself under these difficult circumstances to continue the good work of enhancing the capacity of your own political party. I'll say quickly a few things generally and mention specifically the conversation that we will be focusing on today. First is what does a politician or a political party require to do in such a circumstance where we are in a difficult moment? I think from where I sit, 4 critical things are demanded of us in this sector. One is that we have to go virtual because if there are freedoms that have been trampled, are being limited so harshly under the circumstances, are freedoms that allow us to exercise our political rights. Our freedoms for association are limited. Our freedoms for organization are limited. Our freedom of assembly is limited. Of course, courtesy of the restrictions of social distancing, of physical meetings, of avoiding huge gatherings. And political parties thrive in such an environment because politics by nature is really much interface. So we have no choice but really as politicians, as political leaders, as political parties, find ways to adjust and adopt to the new way of doing things. And that means going virtual. So thank you very much, including the very young member, Catherine Nyamato, for being the first one to tune in on this conversation early today. That shows the readiness, the willingness, the commitment to adapt very quickly by going virtual. Secondly, looking at this screen alone demonstrates that Narc Kenya is very mindful of inclusiveness. And at this time when we need to find ways to continue engaging our members, despite the limitations related to economic, challenges, it's important that I can see young people. I can see, the very experienced folks in our society, like my good friend Giorgio Cado, who's here, Reverend Dr. Julius Were, coming in, to diversify and demonstrates really inclusiveness that is required of such an opportunity, because the conversation that need to happen, unless they're inclusive, will not get to hear from younger women like my sister Rosa, younger leaders like Kelvin Kile, and the more experienced leaders. So it's very important that we maintain this diversity and inclusiveness in such a period. Thirdly is the need to be a reliable conduit of information. It would be a pity to get out there that your grassroots leaders, Bwana SG, are the ones contributing to misinformation, basically creating an alternative pandemic to COVID because they are the rumor mongers. So it's important that they appreciate that politicians are respected, politicians are listened to in society, and it's critical that we encourage our membership as a party to be reliable conduit of information so that we aid in the conversation and in the making sure that this pandemic is not really affecting us much because of the rumor mongering and misinformation that may be detrimental to any efforts to counter the virus. Finally, of course, is the point that I've belabored all along. We have to be prepared to adapt. None of us is aware of when this challenge will be out of our way. Whether you are the president of the United States of America, or you are Xi Jinping, where the virus began, or you are the president of the Republic of Kenya, it is difficult. Or even the frontline warriors that are battling the virus in our healthcare facilities. So we have simply to prepare to adapt to this situation. We may find ourselves in this situation in 2022. So how will Narc Kenya campaign? How will you run your politics? How will you reach out? So we have to continually adapt. So those are the 4 things that I thought that I can share. Now, back to the conversation that we're going to have today. You well understand that CMD, our mandate is threefold. One is capacity building of political parties. Secondly is high-level policy advocacy in the area of political governance. And thirdly is our contribution to dialogue, particularly right now, the national dialogue that is geared toward governance reforms, making sure that it is people-centered, making sure that it is structured, making sure that it's issue-based, and making sure that it's actually inclusive. And dialogue, structured, issue-based, people-centered dialogue begins at the party level. So today is an opportunity for you to engage in intra-party dialogue. There are always opportunities where your party chair sits, where a number of you appear, where the SG sits in the steering, where Tabu sits on the oversight board, that your party as Narc Kenya then has to bring their views to a multi-party or an inter-party dialogue platform. And it's critical that this conversation begins at the party level, so that whatever the SG is articulating at a multi-party level is the same thing that Rosa is articulating at the inter-party youth dialogue platform, so that there's coherence in terms of issues, there's coherence in terms of party positions, there's coherence in terms of party statements by various leaders from the same party. That's why we think as CMD to ensure that the conversation at the inter-party level continues. And we shared the focus of this discussion online as we invited you via Zoom. I just want to recap quickly that one, the crisis cannot stop us from engaging in dialogue, because the dialogue around governance reform is not stopping. There are still conversations. You saw recently a bill or a referendum bill published. I have just come across a second bill today on referendum. So as a party, we need to have this conversation. What is the Narc Kenya, general view and feel of the referendum bills that are being churned out? What is the Narc Kenya feel of membership and possibly a position on the IEBC reforms? What do we do about the special interest groups? We have to actualize Article 100. We have to look at the issues of inclusivity around gender inclusivity around Article 27. And all these are ongoing things. We have the campaign financing law that bars a lot of issue-based membership, like the kind you have. A lot of young people that you have that want to contest for party positions, elective positions. And so we need to look at these things and come out strongly. And many more that are coming up. So it's important that this conversation continues, the parties continue to develop their understanding and the appreciation of these governance reform issues, then be able, when we converge, either virtually, remotely, or hopefully pretty soon can be able to again meet physically, you clear that what the SG is articulating is actually a party position. What Tabu is articulating as the ED is a party position that is a collective idea in the party. So I want to wish you really fruitful conversations. And over to you. I am done, Tabu. And thank you very much for giving us this opportunity. We will be taking a back seat, muting our cameras and our microphones, and to listen in and take the necessary notes to be able to build in our programming going forward. So thank you very much for listening to me, and I wish you fruitful deliberations. Karibuni sana. Over
Frank,
to you, Tab.
Thank you very much, Frank, for those remarks. And I wish to take this opportunity to hand over the mic to SG, Bana Orwa Michael, for the next session. Bana Orwa, please.
Thank you, Edie. Thank you, Frank. Is Frank still with us? Yes, I can see he's.
I am here.
And yes, thank you. Thank you for your remarks. I can see a few other members are coming in. Others are trying to get in. Margaret Toili, Fatma Abbas, John Kathangu. Welcome as you continue coming. So thank you very much, Frank. First is to appreciate, again, the support that we continue to receive as a party within the corridors of CMD Kenya. We do not take it for granted. We know there are many other people who would appreciate the same positions and opportunities. So we are grateful for your sparing continuously some resources, programming resources for the benefit of Narc Kenya as an institution and its membership. You've spoken well, and I think my role is quite simple. So I think this is a valuable opportunity. In a perfect world, we would be organizing this and inviting our members. Given the resource situations, we are not able to do this as frequently as possible. So I want to welcome members who have taken their time to log in as well, and hoping that we can stay to the end and we can keep the conversations very fruitful. We are currently existing in a fairly depressed situation, not just financially, but also mentally. I think mental health issues out of the COVID era are not spoken out much, but if you look at children around you, even though there might be internet, there might be pretenses for them to be schooling, the fact that the restrictions, the rights that Franklin has mentioned, things that we've taken for granted that have really been curtailed. It's sinking on many people that there could be situations around depression, mental health issues related to this. So I hope that all of us are taking measures to remain positive and healthy in that regard. I wanted to say, for the benefit of our CMD colleagues, that yes, certainly the issues that are going on within the country, we have not yet had a consolidated party position, but this is part and parcel of arriving at those things. How I see where we are, there are a lot of things moving, and I wanted to point out a couple of things, not necessarily to define the conversation, but off the top of my mind, I think there are questions around, in the context of COVID-19, we will have to contend with questions about livelihoods and the right to live and eat. A lot of terrible things have happened to people, loss of jobs, in already job situation that was really bad before Corona. And we've now seen what is happening in companies closing. People are having half a salary, and you're supposed to be actually grateful for that, because there are those who have gone home. I've just read in the last 1 hour, Oxfam International is firing a third of its entire global workforce. That means in the non-profit sector, NGOs are not going to be spared. Grant makers, donors are not spared at all. So the impact of this thing, COVID-19, is, in terms of livelihoods, is going to be worse than anybody probably is imagining right now. Right now, of course, we are focused with survival, don't get infected, the medical dimension to it. So I think as a party, it's an issue as a party, as a country, that we need to think about what is going to happen to the job situation, the right of people to eat, to get a job, etc. A couple of things have happened that are also unfortunate. The Narc Kenya Youth League yesterday released a press statement condemning the eviction of the people from Ruai and the other previous place of in a time that we think is totally a bad timing. So it seems that we are concerned that the government, for example, is not very sensitive to a humanitarian heart at these trying moments. So the question about livelihoods in the post-COVID era is going to be critical, and it's something the party needs to be able to speak to. The second thing is about the challenge of safeguarding democracy and governance situation in the country, good governance generally. I think with these restrictions of rights and opportunities and freedoms, there could be possibilities of the state abusing its power, overreaching, and I think it is helpful to think about how we protect our democratic promise, both now and in the period after. The third thing is the question around a referendum. I think you've pointed out, Franklin, yes, there seems to be now 2 referendum bills. There could be 4 more coming, who knows? I think the referendum conversation is as prime and ongoing in the country. We need to think about what that means for us as a party. How we engage with the process, whether we support it, and in condition, with which conditions, if we don't support it, all that conversation needs to take place, because the referendum, for some people are saying referendum is actually the elections. It's an extremely important conversation for us because it will have implications for key institutions, electoral management institutions or bodies, electoral management laws, policies. So if we don't keep an eye on the referendum, what it promises and what it doesn't, whom it places and displaces, we will probably have lost some momentum. But in a nutshell, I think that is what I would want to say as I welcome all of us into the conversation. Please let us populate the agenda and raise issues, shine light onto areas that are probably not within the radar of most people in the public interest, so that we can have a robust party position that speaks to the reality of Kenyans, speaks to the reality of our economy, speaks to the reality of our politics, and shows that we are really connected to the pulse of our country's politics and people. So back to you, Edie. Thank you everyone again for sparing the time, and thank you CMD Kenya for your support. I welcome all of us to engage.
Thank you very much. As all of us have taken notes of the issues that we put, conversation is to help as a process. COVID-19 is to the conversation as members of the party, and as those who are going to help the party grow. Issues that are critical to us are politics related, but remember, as a party, we are operating in an environment that is affected by socio-economic issues. And therefore, what happens outside the party establishment affects us at the same time. It is important that we get to understand those issues. And having had the opportunity, I wish to welcome everybody to this meeting and to begin to get the feel of what are the issues, as Frank put it, in the current circumstances as a party, what we need to do. Now that our freedoms appear to be cut to some level because of the COVID-19, what other mechanisms are we going to employ to stay afloat? Are going to be the big. What is our take? What is our position? So we will have a discussion around these issues, and eventually we hope that we will have a resolution. What are we going to do for 19? Over to you, members. Can we hear what trajectory are we going to take as a party? Remember, you have your mic. If you have to speak, then you have to unmute your mic so that the rest of us hear you. And at one, I may think that if I call a name, then it means that I would have handed you as what should we do in the previous as a party? Honorable Nyamato?
I think as a party, we need to, to come up with a paper, especially focusing on the referendum, as I feel that the referendum, actually some of the things that need to be guarded, it should not introduce more positions in our political hierarchy because of our economic situation, especially after this pandemic. We don't know really where we are going. The situation in the country financially will be down. So I think the referendum should focus more on governance, economic reforms, of course, inclusivity, so that the bill is seen, and also we have to put into consideration that we already have a constitution. What is there in this constitution that needs to be amended in the referendum? What is there in this, what is missing in this constitution that maybe needs to be added? And also the current constitution as it already has provisions for special interest groups. Has it been fully implemented? If the constitution has still got gaps which have not been implemented, then I really don't know how we can, the referendum, what should be introduced there to push it in such a way that we also get the constitution as it is now to be fully implemented, whatever that has not been taken care of. And also as it is here in our agenda today, we also, the political party, as a political party, and also the amendments to political parties. Is a political party is a political party. The financing, how it is currently being done and what should be done differently. I feel it is very, very critical that at this time, and especially the situation we are entering into, all those things are put into consideration.
Thank you, Mheshimiwa Nyamato. George Okado, what is your take? George Okado. Unmute your mic, please, George. George, unmute your mic. George Okado, unmute your mic.
Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you, George.
All right.
Proceed.
Dan, I've come in here, but one of the areas of interest for me is the international context of COVID-19. In one area, there are a lot of, obviously, international guidelines going on that we need to understand how they're being domesticated. For example, we are now having an open lockdown, clearly as part of the international practice, international guideline. That's one. We've heard, and I've heard, is probably part of the rumors, is that there might be trials. Kenya as a country, what is the position? Because this is the time also when we begin to get decisions being made that affect the citizens based on international relationships. So I'm very interested in that, how the party is going to address the emerging context of COVID-19 vis-a-vis our political freedoms.
Thank you, George, for those issues raised. Members, you have issues that we are dealing with. What is your take?
Tabu, if I may. Hello? Hello? Oh, okay. So my take will be slightly different. I find it very, very ill motive when we have to talk about referendums and how to deal with this, virus COVID, and we have our neighbors who are sleeping hungry. I think we need to change our priorities and focus on the basic rights of us Kenyans. There are people who can't afford. So even when you talk about a referendum, you're talking about the health regulations and guidelines, and they're portraying. Some don't understand it because they're sleeping hungry. For me, it's about how do we continuously advocate and insist on the government that they need to provide basic rights for all Kenyans. It's unfortunate that we are sleeping hungry. So if we want to take the referendum to the people who have no jobs, who have nothing, who have lost families, girls and boys who are victims and being sexually harassed every day, every night, how do we take politics to them? How will they listen to us? Why don't we focus on what's happening right now and the things we can deal with? Then we can do politics. I agree it's necessary, but who will you be preaching to if they all can't listen to you because of hunger? And they're being violated, they're being beaten at home. They have, yes. So how?
So for you, the focus should be on the socio-economic. Remember, we are a political party. We are not a charitable organization,
but we fight for human rights. We do fight.
Okay, we hear you. SG, give us your insight as Dr. Weche prepares to take the next mic. Manaurwa?
Idi, if you allow me, since I was a little more generous I sneaked in my contribution in the opening, I would want to listen more before I make a next round of contribution. If it is okay.
Thank you. Dr. Weche.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone.
To you, Dr. Weche.
My concern on this issue is twofold. First of all, are we really learning from what is happening in the international arena? There is a lot of information about how other countries are tackling the corona situation. We are aware of countries that are, right now suspending the strict lockdown requirements. People are now able to start getting back together. Economic activities are being brought back online, so to speak. So can we start speaking about that level of resumption, even as we now go to a new normal? That's the first one. And then the second thing is that I recently had the opportunity of going to some peri-urban areas of Nairobi. And whereas I, on my part, had been, doing the quarantine business, I was amazed to find that people out there, it's business as usual. No one is locking themselves up. Nobody's whatever. And then now that the masks situation arose and it became law, people are more concerned about wearing the mask because they are afraid of being picked up by the police, not because of fear of corona. So in this regard, I support what Rosa has said about, people are hungry. There are real needs that are actually not being met. But even as we are concerned about the impact of the corona situation, let us also accept that we have a significant number of people who are recovering. If we have 90% of the people who are recovering, then we should have a policy that is only looking at the 10%, and all resources are going to the 10%, because that then becomes like government, where half the budget that is obtained through taxes just goes to paying government workers and their parks of flying all over the world and doing what have you. I mean, half the money literally goes there. Nothing goes to development because people are too busy getting their per diem. So I would wish that we'll be able to speak to that, if that's okay. Thank you. Has ED disappeared? Or have I been speaking to myself? Is there anybody else in the meeting?
We are here. We are here. We are here.
We are here. The ED might be having technical challenges. And I've seen Madam Chair has checked in bila kupingwa.
Yes, I had indicated that I would be half an hour late, and here I am.
Yeah, I
Good
believe
afternoon,
the
everyone.
apology was communicated.
Good afternoon, Chair.
Good afternoon.
Good. So I don't know at what point Chair came in, but I suspect it is when the Reverend was speaking. Maybe as Tabu,
yes.
Yes, as Tabu tries to find and lock down internet connectivity in Budalangi, could we perhaps proceed in the same tradition? I don't think he had a list. He was just going around to get initial thoughts on what could be priorities. And thank you, Dr. Weche, for your contribution. We can go by hands, those who are ready to make their contribution. Okay. Honorable Nyamato.
I just want to welcome the chair and say that we are happy to see her during this time of the lockdown and to welcome her to the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Chair, I'm not sure I'm the only one. If I'm the only one who is only seeing your spectacles. Good, now that's better. Good.
Sasa nitoe ndivyo unione au uwe namna gani? I'm holding my iPad because I'm not at the desk.
Yeah, that's why it is harassing your image. It keeps going. So that's fine. Brian, I'm not sure if I saw your hand just before I invited Honorable Nyamato.
Yeah. You saw my hand.
Okay, thank you. Please proceed.
Okay, let me proceed. I think my take first is what we are seeing right now. When you look at it, is that everything is going So we are going to do more and more things virtually. So the first challenge is we can see that most of our country, the coverage of the internet is very bad. That we have even a challenge for our ED to be able to join in the meeting. And at the same time, we have a very big company which is making around, I think they're making around 4 billion per month, but they are not able to go as an international ICT body, which says that access to the internet now should be universal, and we should be able, and actually it's becoming a basic need, because when you look at it, is that we have the issue of coverage and cost. Because you might be in Nairobi, but when you try to buy that bundle, you cannot afford. So going forward, We have telemedicine, which is going to go on. We have kids have to go to school online. We don't know for how long, because when you look at the way the schooling is in Nairobi, we have classes which have as many as 60 children per class. So it means to be able to implement social distancing, it will take a very, very long time, because I don't believe they are going to build more classes. I don't think they are going to employ more teachers within a very short time. So as a party, we should be able to lobby for better coverage of the country and lowering of the making internet more accessible by lowering the cost of the internet. Let them not tell us about the rules and whatever. That is not practical. Safaricom must be forced, or the other players, to bring down the cost of these services. The other thing I would like to look at is about the feeding issue. We have a very, very big problem. Most of the people have lost their jobs. Like in Nyeri, nobody is able to travel to Nairobi to get the stocks, because that is what we normally do. We have the transport sector, which contributes so much to the economy. It is not working. So as a party, maybe we can be able to come up with a draft, something like a stimulus package, which should be presented to this economic recovery team, so that post-COVID, how do we go forward? Because it looks like we'll be in this situation for some time, because now we are around 60 days into this lockdown kind of quarantine thing. So we need, as a party, to have maybe an economic committee to be able to come up with a proposal on how we can get back post-COVID. So I don't want to take all the time, but those are my two contributions. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Edie, welcome back. I was just pretending to chair the meeting in your absence, so please take over.
Thank you for chairing, because I have a network challenge that is on and off, but it's good to have an SG who is mindful. Thank you, and welcome, Chair, to the meeting. And we are having the conversation. Karibu sana, Chair. SG, you need now to let me know who else had spoken, so that I don't identify those who have already spoken. Has Kabbalah spoken really?
Rumors from reliable rumamongers indicate that Kabbalah is still aligning his powerful point, so he must be ready right now. But in your absence, I think it's only Honorable Nyamato who spoke to welcome the chair, and then Brian's contribution. Other than that, please, I'm sure Kabbalah must be dying to impart wisdom.
Yes.
Thank you. The Kabbalah, the mic is yours.
Karibu Chair and Karibu everyone. It's very good to see all of you, and hope everyone is doing good. My overbearing and overarching point is on the policy development, where I think we should fight for and challenge the government to change its policy development from a rules and regulations one to one that is ideological. For example, when you look at how the government is fighting the issue of COVID, they're using securocrats as opposed to technocrats, health technocrats, to fight this pandemic. So you find the security men are the ones who are in the forefront of fighting the virus, which leads to things like extrajudicial killings that we saw. People are afraid to do things ideologically as to how they're being told with the World Health Organization. They're doing things because of the rules and the repercussions that will occur to them, which in my view is that we need to change it where people can be able to see that, to understand the extent of this disease and play their part, as opposed to playing their part, as opposed to doing things that the government is using to criminalize. And also, you see, it ends up to where you find people are being criminalized and are afraid of this issue. So my point is that let's urge the government and push the government to change the fight of this disease from a rules and regulation one to an ideological based one.
Thank you, Banakabala. I wish to invite Chair to make her remarks at this particular point, and then we'll bring in the rest. Karibu, Chair, as we listen to you.
Asante sana. I'm just wondering why I am being given a special place and I'm just a participant. But first, my apologies for being late. I had another small meeting, which we started late, and therefore I realized it would spill over to around 2:30. So my apologies. Maybe then belatedly, may I thank you all for finding the time to engage in this conversation, because even in view of COVID, life has to continue. We cannot abandon our role as a party to oversight government, to comment on topical issues. We cannot disappear until COVID is over. So this is a very important engagement. And I'll just, together with it, indicate what my thoughts are. When I see that we are being asked to talk about governance during COVID, the issue that comes to my mind is accountability. When there is something, a disaster or a pandemic like this one happening, we all tend to be very sympathetic towards the government. We rise in solidarity because we need to pull together to overcome the challenges that we are undergoing as a country. But we never must lose sight of the need for accountability in everything that the government does. And if we lose sight of that, then even our efforts to overcome the challenge will be to naught. And I want to give just a few examples. Recently, we were being told about the 1 billion that the Ministry of Health had been given to use for COVID. And we found that most of the money went to the security agencies, namely the police, the NSIS, more than went to the health institutions, more than went to KEMRI. And of course, there was wastage, the tea and mandazis. You wonder who is going to offices to take mandazis when everybody has slowed down under COVID. So if we do not point out certain things, that we expect the bulk of the money to go to the core challenge at hand, which is health, which is fighting COVID, then we are going to lose, to be the net losers as Kenyans, because the money will be misused just the same way government functionaries find an opportunity for lining their pockets whenever there is money. So I think that this is also supposed to make us again focus on our role as a party not in government, an opposition party. Where should we be lending our voices? And as far as I'm concerned, it is not that I don't want police to benefit. After all, they are giving us security, they are enforcing curfew. But remember that they have a budget for this. They have their budget line. The NIS already has a budget. Why would they receive the lion's share? We really must be telling the government what are the priorities. Personally, I would expect that all county hospitals improve their equipment, their facilities, not only to handle COVID, but to handle other diseases that arise day to day. Look at what is happening in Marsabit and Turkana, where we have deaths because of cholera. Look at what is happening in our own counties. Our health services on a daily basis, giving service to the people. I want to tell you that I know for sure that things are almost at a standstill, that even when one COVID case was discovered in Kirinyaga from a driver who had taken goods from Busia to Kirinyaga, the county facilities have been unable to offer quarantine to the people who came into contact with that driver. The driver himself was brought to Nairobi for quarantine and for treatment. But the 24 people who came into contact, the county was unable to take them. It's the owner of the mill, or the maize miller, who now provided facilities for quarantining these people. And I think Kirinyaga is an example of many majority counties. Very few are prepared. Look at the food situation. The casual, people who depend on casual labor, those who have lost jobs, those who are jobless, people are already hungry. The government is not offering us any way forward. Look at the people in the slums in Nairobi. How come we are not planning to provide water and sanitation to these people so that we can start planning for normalcy, knowing that everybody can observe the hygiene required by COVID and by all general diseases? We really need hygiene at all times. We need to see planning. How can we raise our voices to make the government focus on the things that are necessary? Givenji has said it, that we need a roadmap. That's the way I took his contribution of returning to normalcy. You cannot return without concrete plans. So for me, this conversation is very, very important so that we hear the thoughts coming from all of us. And as a party, we can begin to play our role of oversighting government during this COVID situation and ensuring that the bar on governance is not lowered during this difficult situation. I want to end there so that we can hear more people.
Thank you very much, Chair, for your thoughts and the issues that you have raised, which are very critical for our survival as a party. Scholar Andrew, what are your thoughts on the issues on the table?
Can everyone hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Okay.
Personally, I feel like the government has failed. That is due to the lack of check and balance of an opposition. Note, I'm not saying we should be an opposition, but I'm saying because the government lacks an opposition, there's no one to challenge them. So for first, I feel the government has failed. The other thing I feel is that we should check more on the socio-economic rights more than the other ones, because, for example, for the referendums, there's no way you're gonna take a referendum to people and expect them to read while hungry. That is not gonna happen. Personally, if you bring me and I'm hungry, I'll just throw away the paper, or I just light a fire with it or something and keep myself warm. So I feel one thing, for example, at my area, a good example, I'm suffering with landslides. And then the government had not acted even a week down the line. We were hosting people who had landslides at our area, just neighbors there. But the government took so long. Even government, the MCAs, for example, who their work is as simple as oversight, are taking too long to respond. So I think we should start with acting as a check and balance for the government, because if we start pointing out these things, then we can start having a footing as a voice of the people. Yeah, for starters, that's my...
Thank you, Scholar, for the proposal and the issues that are affecting your area. Hassan Fondo, the mic is yours. Fondo. Hassan Fondo.
Hello.
Yes.
Well, I think I would still get back to what Givij and the chair were trying to put across, that as much as we may need a roadmap of going back to normalcy, the question gets back to the citizens themselves, if whether they are ready to comply with or rather to adhere to the directives given by the Ministry of Health. In the fight of COVID-19, it calls for a collective responsibility from the citizens themselves and together with the government. We understand that the government might have failed, especially on its operations, the way it's supposed to handle its citizens. And we might not really blame the government as per se, because one, we are failing to have the opposition, which is supposed to do the oversightment of the government operations towards its citizens. So my feeling is that, or rather my take is that we as Narc Kenya, we should focus, we should emphasize on the current situation, taking issues pertaining to the referendum. Whereas we have so many issues that the government has not put into implementation, then that means we'll be working at, there is nothing that we should be expecting that would impact the lives of the Kenyan citizens. So the focus, or rather my take is that we should really focus on how best can we do it so that we get back to normalcy, because we have to adapt the virus right now. Waiting for it, iende chini, it will take several months, and we need, life has to go on, like the way Chair was putting it. So hizo mambo na referendum, I don't think if the party should focus at the moment. We should look on how best can we improve the livelihoods of the Kenyan citizens as we keep fighting the COVID-19, or rather as we keep coming up with more strategies of us getting back to normalcy. Over to you.
Thank you, Bwana Fondo, for that proposal. Mheshimiwa Kanjogu, give us your position on the matter.
Thank you very much, Bwana Idi. And first and foremost is to thank you and the CMD Kenya for this invitation. I'm glad to participate in this particular conversation. You can hear me?
Whoever has an echo, somebody has an echo, put it off.
Edie, we might have to ask members to mute their microphones when they are not speaking. I think there are a couple of noises coming from the background of one of the or so of the participants. Let's mute you.
Can you continue?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think now you can hear me clearly.
I can hear you. I hope the rest also.
Fine. So I had just said that first and foremost, I wanted to thank our party and the facilitators of this particular meeting, and also to put it across that much has been said. But my concern is when we come to the knee-jerk reaction of our government in matters of what is happening, or rather what is prevailing in our country. When the issues of COVID and other aspects of our economy came up, I think the government, as it is, didn't have a very clear path in terms of handling the situation. And it is at this particular point that, having handled the situation with us, we require a leadership direction in matters of handling the COVID and also getting into reality after the COVID issues. And secondly, it would also be an issue that I'm trying to persuade the government to empathize with its citizens. And in this case, when I talk about empathizing, is the leadership should be able to look at the real issues that the Mwananchi is going through. Issues of funding, issues of food security, issues of loss of jobs. And I think we've not seen categorically, while in America, probably the citizens are being assured of government probably chipping in terms of something at the end of the month for the job losses. I think here in Kenya, we've not seen an attempt in regards to how that is supposed to be tackled. And therefore, my take is that even as we check the post-COVID situation, an economic recovery roadmap which I think as a party, we can put some points across in regards to how it can be approached. And then, of course, there are also matters of education that is at stake. You know, when we talk about education, so many other issues arise, and especially the ability of the parents to accommodate the bills that they're supposed to take care of, having lost jobs, some of them having been displaced because of either France or what the government is doing right now. And certainly, I think strategically, as a party, we can come up with a proposal in terms of how we are going to handle that in the coming days. Thank you very much, Wanaiti. Over to you. Hello, Wanaiti.
Bonaidi could be frozen. Edie? We still have some sounds from the background. I'm not sure where it's coming from, but I can see people are muted. Kanjogu is muted. Honorable Nyamato, muted?
Yes.
Please mute your microphone.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, good. So thank you, Bwana Kanjogu. As we wait for the ED to check back in, hopefully he does. Any responses? First, I think everybody has made a contribution at this point of the members of the party who are online. Honorable Toili has not yet made a point. Allow me to give the floor to Honorable Toili, and then we can pick it up from there. I've also seen Macrin. Macrin is online, so yes. Can we do Honorable Toili? Please unmute your microphone. You are not yet muted. We can't hear. I'm not sure if you're speaking. Unmute your microphone so we can hear you. We can't hear you. I'm not sure if you are speaking. Your camera is shifting. Franklin Mukwanja, you can see how I'm suffering right now. This is the hardship allowance I was talking about, literally. Good.
Hello, she has finally unmuted.
Good, thank you. I can hear you now.
Hi.
Okay,
Hi.
good. The floor is all yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You getting me? Hello?
Yes, Maggie.
Okay. I'm so happy for CMD and Kenya for giving us this chance that we are able to air our views after a long time. My contribution today is that I thank God we are alive. And Kenya as it is, as it stands, personally, I'm so much touched negatively that our government of the day has not done so much to the people, although it has put the conditions, but it's not the right time for us to talk about politics when we are fearing what COVID is doing to our life. We are really arrested in the houses. We have really located ourselves back into the homes. We have been locked into counties. We can't move, we can't do anything. It's very unfortunate that we are not even observing God, the presence of God, that even when we go to church and say we are praying, we come out of the church and we start politics straight away, not waiting for God's intervention. It's a very unfortunate scenario in Kenya. We talk about politics when people are dying, when people are lacking food, when people have no security, when people are not even aware about the future, what the tomorrow holds, save for God. Yeah, about our Narc Kenya party, as a party, I feel we have a responsibility to do. One is to oversight the government, because right now we don't have, what can I say, opposition party. We don't have any opposition party right now to oversight the government. So anything that is happening is just happening at the mercy of the people. No one is pointing out. I feel now Kenya, it's the right time we should wake up and do the oversight. Another thing is, why do we talk about referendum at this time when actually Kenya doesn't have money? What is the priority? Is it the referendum or the future of the people even after the economic crisis is dwindling? We don't have money in Kenya. We don't know about tomorrow. Why do we talk about the referendum? I don't think this is the right time. And as a party, I think it's the right time. I want to thank CMD for giving us this chance that, hello,
Continue, we can hear you.
We can hear you.
Okay, I want to thank CMD for giving us this chance. And I made sure that I had to come and contribute my views. I'm happy to see all people are very active. We should continue with massive recruitment using our technology in any way, reaching our people at the grassroots, at the ward level, county level, upward, so that after the COVID, we are prepared and more than prepared, so that we can know where we are taking Kenya. I take now Kenya as a party that is the only opposition party that is going to streamline the lives of Kenyans. With the leadership of our chair, I have no reservation. I know we are going to make it. Otherwise, our economic crisis is going to hit hard. And as it is given, even the education in Kenya has really changed the timetable. We thank God. If our children go back to school, when is it? It's an idea that we have to think about and to go back to God, to ask God for guidance and provision. Thank you. I may share another time, but we should remain focused as an oversight party that is in the opposition. We don't have opposition in Kenya. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Toili. I've been trying to get to speak with the ED. He's definitely facing significant challenges of connectivity. Hopefully he may find his way back. It is also possible he may not find his way back. We hope for the best. So thank you for that contribution. I want to believe Macrin. Macrin, can you hear us?
Yes, Oro, I can hear you guys.
Thank you. So I'm gonna give the floor to Macrin to make her maiden contribution on the floor. What I want to ask members as we listen to Macrin as well, to think through some of the repetitive and core issues that keep coming up, and also issues that members are raising that may require consensus building within the party. So just keep your mind engaged in that as we listen to Macrin, because you're going to have to start coming to think through what are the overriding issues. Madam Toili, I would ask that you mute your microphone.
Hello.
Yes, please
Hello.
mute your microphone so we can't hear, so that we don't hear you in case you are coughing. And this is a good cough, not the cough of COVID-19 or something like that. It's a good cough. Oh, good. Thank you. Macrin, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, SG, for the chance.
Okay.
And good afternoon to everyone. I'm happy to hear from you guys, all of you. And I'm also facing serious issues with network. I don't know if it has been infected with COVID because I'm in Kawangware. You guys, you know that. And it's one of the hotspots.
You chased people away, the people who came to test. You people are just the greatest of all time. We will hold you accountable to that one. But go, please continue. Keep safe.
And so I am hoping at least I will have given 1 and 2 points before the network is gone or start messing me around. I've been listening to you and I've been trying to grasp 1, 2, 3 things. My 2 issues or my two points are centered on our party. Hello? Oh my goodness.
Members cannot speak because their microphones are muted.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
This is now the challenge of working online because it's a new normal.
Yeah.
And this situation is really challenging us. And as a party, I want to comment and say that it has really challenged me and in my area, and especially my area of recruitment. We have really faced challenges. And it has also showed us, or it has also taught us to sweep our party a bit clean. We've been talking about upgrading our membership to online registration, which as at now we do not have online registrations as a party. Hello?
Hold on, Macrin. Are you alone, or I'm trying to find the source of the noise?
Yes, I'm alone.
Then there is.
I'm very alone.
Because people, Kanjogu, you are not muted. Could the noise be coming from? Kanjogu is now muted. We were trying to identify the source of the leakage. I think we have narrowed down to a few possibilities. Please, Macrin, proceed.
So I was saying, Orwa, my point is about the upgrading of our party to online registration. We do not have online registration yet. We've been talking on that line for so long, upgrading our membership forms so that someone that is trying to get to the party, maybe trying to register for 2022, which is not too far, to be able to register online, but we are yet to have that. We send, like me, when someone is asking for registration and they want to register, I have to go to the email and send these forms and tell them to scan and bring me back the form when it is assigned and it is not online. Sometimes it is a bit it's challenging, and this COVID thing has really opened our eyes to try and check on 1, 2, 3 things from our party. And this other thing, I've been wondering, how are we going to do our campaigns, because campaigns are also beginning seriously next year. If the COVID is not going anywhere, are we going to be to do the campaign like funeral with 15 people? How are we going to do our campaigns? Are we going to do the campaigns online without gathering? How are we going to do our campaigns as people that are working or as a political party? And those are my two issues. And I'm also happy because I have had chair saying that we should be oversight. We should be a party that is oversighting, or we should oversight the government. And she has been very vocal on that, even through online platforms, the Twitter and other forums. Have been seeing and I've also been reacting on that, which is also so good. But kweli hata mimi ninapata challenge, ni kama tabu. Sijui Kawangware imekuwa shida gani ya network, because kama ni bundles ziko kwa simu ama ni kabambe, saa hii ndio tunajua who is who. So so I'm happy and thank you so much for that chance. Sina comment ingine SG.
Thank you, Macreen. Please, thank you for your contribution. Mute your microphone. I have seen our ED trying profusely everything possible to come in, but it's on and off. So we'll continue to hold for him. I've also realized that we do have Felix is on and off. So I didn't realize that he had not made a contribution. I can see he's trying to connect. Felix, you might want to kill the video if it is giving you hell. So I give you an opportunity to speak clearly on the voice only, if that is okay. But if you're okay, that's fine. Thank you, Macreen. I think you've highlighted the fact that we seem to be quite analog still in basic things like membership. When cattle dips in my village, members can subscribe to be members of the cattle dips via online platform. So we must move Narc Kenya to the online platform for registration.
Very true.
Registration. Thank you for pointing that out. It's now a reality given where we are. Felix, the floor would be yours. I see the ED making another attempt. This is called resilience in the face of adversity. ED, we are with you together. So, Felix, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good, please. This is your opportunity to make your contribution.
Unfortunately, yes. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jambo. Yes, and unfortunately, I've just joined it. I had some trouble connecting. So really, I have no traction of the directions and the spirit of the conversation. Okay. I have just joined in. I joined, first of all, then we had a problem from this end, in fact, as far as the connectivity is concerned. But I've just come in, actually, just now.
Okay. So I'll be generous, so I'll offer you a bridge. I'll give you a minute to reorganize. I'll summarize what we are trying to do essentially is asking the question, what should be our party's priorities in the current context and beyond the COVID-2019? What are the major issues that we need to be keeping an eye on? How are we supposed to be organizing ourselves as a party to remain relevant and to actually speak to the public interest in this country? So we're at a place where we're gathering members' thoughts on what should be priority, what may not be a priority, how we need to respond, how the government could do better, that much of things. So I'll allow you some minutes and I go back to the ED to share with us some reflections he had while he was in the analog world. Maybe he had some brief revelations that he could share with us and then to cede the chairing back to you, Bwana Idi.
Okay.
Thank you very much, SG, for taking care of your brother when things are not working. You know, this world of floods, the internet keeps flip-flopping. However, I wish to thank everybody, those who have been able to hear. We need to really discuss issues relating to our position as a party, COVID-19. Because as a party, we know that elections are definitely coming, and those elections are critical to us. How are we going to rally our troops? One, to ensure that the party is intact. We are growing our membership. We are attracting and we have traction for people to come into the party. It's also important and critical for us to support the leadership in terms of concretizing the issues that we wish to address as a party post COVID-19. Of importance to all of us is the fact that this pandemic is new. Nobody seems to be having an answer. Is government doing enough? And if it is not doing enough, as a party, what are some of the proposals in our view that are going to help us to get the point home and be the focal point for the citizens? They say, yes, these proposals by Narc Kenya are proposals that are important. Legislation has been put in place. Remember the other day, Mheshimiwa Kioni said that there are 45 pieces of legislation that are awaiting to be churned out. But these pieces of legislation, how are they affecting our operations as a party? What is it in them that critically we need to look at and discuss as a party and say, on this one, what are proposals? Is it, as the agenda puts it, are we able to come up with a memorandum to the relevant committees of parliament and have our input? It's important to note that Chairman Kioni kept acknowledging what we did as a party through the leadership of Chair, that we wrote to their committee and we provided what in his view were critical proposals that were important for the political parties funding. So those amendments, yes, COVID is here, but let's not kill ourselves with COVID-19, but as COVID is going to live with us, what are we doing? That is my take, Bana SD. And having said that, I wish to request that, has Toili spoken for your guidance, Bana SG?
Yes, she has. The only person, as far as I can see from the screen, who is in now and hasn't spoken is Felix.
Or who prayed for
John Kathangu has not spoken.
And John Kathangu is not yet back. Kathangu, he appears to be having some challenges with his connectivity.
Okay, noted. So then we have, it's Felix.
Okay, let's hear Felix, and then maybe we can do another round of fresh input, specifically speaking to the issues of the bills that there are. Oh, Karibu Bwana Kathangu, I can now see you and hear you. And then the issue of what are our proposals to those bills that are of critical importance to us is IBC, the reforming of IBC, because IBC is critical in terms of operations as a party. So what is it that we are going to put across? Felix, the mic is yours. Felix, unmute your mic.
May I intervene even as Felix is coming in, Chair?
Yes, Chair.
What I'm asking, when you ask participants today about our response to the bills, are we sure that every one of the participants is aware of those bills? If they were not circulated, then we need to circulate them and ask for input so that people do not wonder what bills. Some of us may have seen them, others may not have seen them.
Thank you, Chair. Kadangu?
Yes, Tabu.
Welcome, and the mic is yours.
Thank you very much. One, let me say thank you so much, Chair. Thank you, the Deputy Chair, SG, and the executive members and our other members who are on. First and foremost, I think I should first of all start by saying I'm sorry. I went off air at one point. And one thing that I wanted to say, you discussed about the coronavirus. And for the corona, I will say this very briefly. We have been talking about how Kenyans, individuals are going to safeguard themselves against the COVID-19. One, I would say I'm a very, very disappointed person when it comes to what my church and other churches are coming up with. When they talk about opening up the churches so that people can go there and pray together. I know Kenyans have an issue. Kenyans will be allowed to come in there and then get to a point where what the government has done to make it mandatory that we adhere to the regulations, they will go against it. So to me, I will just say this in a nutshell. If they open whatever they are going to open, what they have closed today, let our schools be the last ones to be opened, followed by the church and then the school. Then from there we can move forward. Having said that, I will say this. The way we are, I've heard what our chair has said about the rules and the regulations, about the bills that have come over for us to discuss this evening. Those bills were circulated, and I think each and every member has seen them. What I would like to say candidly is, as a party, na Kenya, we are there, but I would like us as a party to change our approach to what we are doing. As a party that is having membership across our 47 counties, the way it is today, we've gotten to a point where we can see that it is not possible for one single entity, one single party to come out, work out and get to Kenyans. We've seen coalitions coming up, people joining. I want to
Have we lost Kadangu?
Kadangu?
We may have lost him.
Yeah, we have lost him. Before he gets back to on air, let's receive any other member with fresh thoughts. Gidinchi Brown. Hello, Gidinchi Brown.
Yes, Bwana Idi.
Yes, Gidinchi.
Okay, the only thing I can say is that for the bills, I've only been able to access the referendum bill, and I'm still going through. So we would like to get maybe more guidance from the chair, given that she's regal on the bills.
Bwana Gidinchi.
Hello.
We agreed that those who have not yet been able to read and understand the bills, we may shelve the issue of the bills for today until we are so sure that all of us are apt, and then the conversation can be enriched by each one of us. Because if we say, Chair, to speak, and yet you have not read, it may not be of any assistance to us. So continue looking at that bill, and then identify the issues that we can now discuss at a later stage. Is that okay, Banagidinji? Gadangu, are you back? Gadangu, John? Oh, John is lost. George Okado, looking at the agenda items, you raised the issue of the international practices and how we are domesticating them. Any fresh thoughts away from that? Hello, George.
Can you hear me?
Now, yes, I can hear you, and I hope the rest too.
No, I think that in terms of the issues that have been raised, I'll be going over what others have said. I think in addition, my point is that in addition what was discussed, I wanted us to also consider the international context as we go forward. It may not necessarily be priority number 2, but I think we should not lose the fact that it has an impact on what we do nationally.
Thank you, George. Rosa, any fresh input that you'd like to provide?
I was reading the special interest groups bill, and I was wondering, because they seem not to, yes, they're recognizing the special groups, those are women, youth, people with disability, minorities, and marginalized groups, but when they talk about party funding, they are not considering, they seem to have in mind people who are in government or who have won the elections of the day, and not necessarily the people who are out like us, for example, at the current moment, at the current time. So I still think there's an issue there where they seem not to think that even parties that are not in government shouldn't get support of that fund and to help the special interest groups. I may be wrong, but that was my understanding of that bill. They seem to be focused on elected members, yeah.
Just like we have said, let's gloss over that when each one of us is better placed. Bana SG, we have 20 minutes to go. Could you give us your fresh thoughts, and then we'll get chair, and finally any other member who will have something to share, so that we don't lose out on the 20 minutes that are left.
Thank you, Bwana Edi, and thank you for everybody who is still holding there. I think, Edi, my capacity to generate new ideas other than the away from the rich contributions that members have made would be to overestimate my intelligence. So allow me to do something that you haven't asked me to do.
Proceed,
what
please.
I proposed, and you could see I was making notes as people spoke, was I was trying to kind of see what are the repetitive things or things that, I think, so I have some things that I think are wedge issues that seem we need to thrash out within the party, develop consensus on how to engage, if to engage at all, etc. And then there are things I'm thinking I'm naming them consensus issues. And this is not final, it's just things as they struck me, and some things that I've put under consensus issues may not be consensus at all. So forgive me in advance. So I hear the primary wage issue that seems undecided, and wage not in terms of that there are heated arguments for or against. I think the referendum is still up in the air somehow. I see conversations around, is it a priority? And I'm wondering whether that question is asked in the context of COVID and other pressing needs, or whether it is a priority. We as a political party, I hear other people say, we are a party. The referendum has implications for elections, it has implications for IEBC, and there is no way then we can be outside of that. And that is done with my wage issues. The consensus issues that I think, what we think, I can hear from the group that we need to focus on. I hear questions around accountability for resources for COVID response. I hear number 2, relief, the way the government is responding, kind of a more humane way, and to provide some sort of relief. from the economic pressures and provide some sort of relief for livelihoods, etc. Concern around that. All these monies and resources we are getting from international partners, World Bank, the Jack Ma's of this world, internal corporate organizations, redirection of budgets. Is there a tangible amount of this that is going to actually relieve in a meaningful way people to say, look, every household that is under duress or most marginalized can get this kind of relief package? The third thing is around response within the confines of the rule of law. I think we all still are very fresh memories of the first day of the curfew in Nairobi. We are familiar with conversations currently, even internationally, saying that the police may have killed more people than COVID, and killed both literally, physically by killing people dying, or killed because they maimed them, or they did things that people are unable to even fend for themselves, go to work and hustle. So to date, if you look at the figures of the people who have died directly from COVID, there is a conversation out there that there may be more people dying out of indirectly from the COVID and the way it was handled. So I think the question around a response by the state to keep this response within the confines of the rule of law. Implement these measures within the confines of the law. The final one, Edie, then I'll let you proceed, is the question around a roadmap. I think at least 2 or 3 members have emphasized the question of a roadmap. And I'm looking at these consensus issues as things that maybe from this conversation, we could actually do either a press statement, release, or something to say, you know, we think this is how and what needs to happen. So the fourth consensus issues around more a roadmap to what I would call a safe, phased, and reasonable return to normalcy. And right now, normalcy, nobody knows what we mean necessarily by normalcy, but some sort of a roadmap that tells people, okay, the government is on top of things. There's a plan we can look forward to. Right now, all we look forward to is is it 4 or 3 p.m. and a new something, and there's a sense of people are resigned to, okay, sasa itaendaje. So I think some sense of a roadmap, even if it is repaired and changed and edited across, but people have a good feeling. And I think with consideration for the most vulnerable, I liked the final contribution around, you know, the churches and the students, children. I think I would have heard this from a lot of parents in our WhatsApp group for my kids. I say, look, if the government wants to gamble with anything else, if people insist on going to church or going to discos, etc., for our children, even if they opened and forced people, we will not release our children. And I think this is particularly important because we have to exit from the PR, public relations, on the lives of children and the most vulnerable. So over to you, Edie, accountability for resources, relief or economic pressures and livelihoods. Number 3, response within the confines of the law. And then number 4, a roadmap of a return to normalcy. I am suspecting that would be my meaningful contribution, Edie, with your permission. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bana SG, for that insight. And I wish now to take this chance to bring in Chair to also share with us her thoughts as we draw to the end of our 2-hour meeting. Karibu, Chair. Hello, Chair. Kindly unmute your mic.
I'd forgotten that. What I would like to add on to what the ED has said is something that I've been thinking of. I'm getting now quite irritated by the government trying to project that we are going to have many, many more infections. It's like they are wishing we could have many more infections, instead of telling us the concrete steps they will take to ensure that the infections that are already there are dealt with. There is contact tracing to ensure that we are not worsening the situation. They seem quite happy to tell us that the peak will be in August and September, where we shall be getting 200 people a day. what they have not told us is how many of us are going to exit this world. I think we need to challenge the government as a party to stop being a doomsday predictor, to return to their core mandate, to ensure that they do everything that is earthly possible. And we have seen how other countries have behaved. We've seen how New Zealand behaved. We have seen countries that go into a lockdown and eliminate the virus altogether. In Kenya, we are at 1,100, call it just under 1,200. Isn't it possible to zero in on the areas where we have these outbreaks so that we are utilizing this time we are under restriction in Nairobi and in Mombasa to actually contain the infections? And we utilize as much time finding innovative ways of doing that instead of utilizing our time predicting doomsday while we don't do enough. I have a feeling that, yes, we are supportive of what the government is doing, but we need to challenge them and to tell them to come out and tell us the plans they have. We may need to be advised by a doctor even as we come out with such a statement. But I'm thinking that one of the consensus should be that on the issues we flag,
We lost Chair on the...
Hello, Chair.
Cheers.
Hello, Chair. I think we have lost Chair. Hello.
Can I comment something on what she was saying? Yeah.
Okay, proceed.
I read somewhere yesterday. I was not sure. I'm not so very sure how true it is, but apparently Kenya is the second country during this coronavirus that has sent money outside, like overseas, offshore bank accounts with 31 billion. Do you think, in light of what Matakarua was saying, they can just be happy? Because if you think about it, they used 40 billion in 40 days to fight coronavirus. You want to tell me by the time they were hitting case 1 and case number 4, each day they were using 1 billion? So at some point, I just think there is a lot of people thinking about 2022 more than they are thinking about our tomorrow and the people, because they are thinking about how they are going to do their campaigns personally. My personal opinion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And that is why the discussion around accountability of resources during this coronavirus is critical. Thank you, Scholar, for that. Anybody with a passing, with a pressing issue? Dr. Weche, what is your remark as we close?
I totally agree with lovely Scholar. Scholar, it's lovely to see you, looking lovely as usual. Unfortunately, the reality is that as and when people are allegedly spending 4 million on tea, you might find that the budget for tea was 1,000 shillings. So somebody has pocketed the rest. So this creative accounting, and as Chair says, rent seeking, is something that people are really playing games with. I've just sent a link that shows that Jack Ma and his people, the billionaire from China, are questioning how the donations they have given are actually being used. So when you have maybe 3 or 4 organizations donating for the same thing, you can comfortably pocket the donations from the other 3 and then use a portion of the donations of one, and then try and demonstrate that you're actually adding value. So I'm very sorry when you have gangsters who are in charge, and I regret to say that we're quite familiar with their stealing capabilities. If we just use the example of Kirinyaga, we know that the lady in charge did loot NYS. I don't know how we're going to start expecting that these wolves are suddenly going to become sheep like the rest of us. So I just think it is sad, and those are the consequences of our leadership choices.
Thank you, Dr. Avi. Chair, are you back? Can we hear you now? We lost you. Hello, Chair. Unmute your mic, please, Chair.
I had literally finished, and I was happy to hear what Dr. Weche has said, which ties in very well with what I'm.
Hello. Hello, Chair. Oh, that connection has again taken us off.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now you are back.
What I'm saying is that what Dr. Weche was saying dovetails into what I was saying, and I had finished my contribution. Thank you. I also noticed we are running out of time.
Thank you, Chair. And I wish to thank each one of you for your time and for your contribution. And this conversation is not ending with this virtual meeting. We keep doing the back and forth. From this discussion, we have agreed that it's going to be critical for us to do a press conference or a press release that is going to touch on the issues that were enumerated by SG, and Chair also brought in this other angle, which we will need to tackle. Scholar has also released some information which we need to question in the area of accountability. The 31 billion that has been banked offshore, where has it come from, and how come we are banking it during the corona period when we are asking everybody to support? From where I sit, I also want to say thank you to CMD Kenya for facilitating our meeting, and we hope that we're going to have many more other meetings virtually now that meeting face-to-face has become a serious issue. Kadango raised the issue of the church and our children. I think it is important that we keep safe in each and everything that we do. On that, I want to thank you, all of you, and to say, may God bless you as we continue our interactions in other fora. Asanteni sana na mbarikiwe. Hello.
Hello, asanteni nyote. Thank you.
Karibu.
Thank you.
Thank you for the time and the enlightening contributions.
Karibu.
Hello.
Thank you. Let's talk soon again. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
God bless.
God bless.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Hello.
Gadangu.
Hakuna kwaheri kutoka kwa hakuna kwaheri kutoka kwa CMD. For those of us who joined a bit late.
Hello. Hello, Maclean.
Hi.
Yes, Tabu.
You were saying for those of you who joined late after the meeting, what can we
late?
do for you?
Hakuna kwaheri kutoka kwa CMD, tuone ni nani amekuwa na sisi na hii conversation.
Oh.
We want to know who has been with us.
Those
Yes?
who have been with you. Fondo, can you tell him those who have been with us?
No.
No, the CMD guys.
Hey, Maclean.
CMD.
Frank was here, I think.
Ameshaenda.
Wengine ameenda. You came late, so it's so unfortunate. Maybe next time warauke.
Aki sio hata late, ni network, ni virus.
Actually, your phone was okay. The audio was the best, Macreen. So I don't know why you are complaining, but we heard you clearly more than everybody who spoke.
Thank you. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, actually, your phone is just perfect.
Hey,
Scholar. Bye.
Aya, thank you so much, guys. I wish you a nice evening. Looking forward for more discussion.
Fondo,
Bye,
thank you, Fondo, for being a good youth.
Bye.
Mimi nitabaki.
Ukifanya nini?
Sasa kama mna left nyote, mimi nitabaki. Kadhangu is still talking in Kiembu.
Listen, you know you're being recorded. Do it elsewhere, please.
Bye bye.
Mai, bye. Mai wechwele bye.
Magi ametoa mask. Na Magi utoe mask.
Wacha uchokozi.
Niko kwa cyber.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Yeah? I'm the last one, so I don't want.
Kai, how do I leave?
Just click leave.
Oh my goodness. Yes, thank you. Bye.
Yeah, just click leave.
And it's not